Right, so let's just take this last call as an example. In fact, let's go back a couple because it will just be easier to show it on a later one. So I've already done these two. These are the two in the example sheet that I had up a second ago. Let me pull up that example strategy sheet again, as you can see here and here. So the way I test these is it's actually shown better on this one here. It's hard. Such stupid names for Memecoins, man. So the data I'm basically trying to get, obviously the contract address, that's for obvious reasons. That's just so I can find it later. I put the date. So yeah, again, I just know like, okay, this was today. Obviously, when I come back to this tomorrow or in a week's time, I know what day this was on. The time so that I can start to guess which times are better. Obviously, we all know that US has more volume, but there might be factors that like are unrelated to just volume that enable you to do better in the mornings. Maybe when there's less rugs being produced. I know, for example, for a friend of mine actually does better during the UK hours just because there's less rugs to filter out. Um, so yeah, the time's really important, and you might start to see that maybe between 5 and 6 are the best times for you, or it could be all evening or whatever. But without that, you obviously can't tell. Entry, so just the market cap of the call, the dip after the call. So this is really important. So as you can see here, you'll wonder what all these boxes are, but I can I'll take them away and then I can show you these separately. Um, so the call came in at it was actually basically called at all-time highs. So it was called here, which in general is not ideal. Um, we had an initial drop of 41%. Um, yeah, not particularly pretty. And then we had an all-time low of 52%. So basically, we had this initial dip after the call for 42%, and then the biggest dip before all-time high is 52%. Now, you might be wondering why that's important, but Leap actually has a feature where you can wait for the certain dip before buying. So if you'd have had this set as like, let's say 40%, you'd have ended up buying here. So rather than buying first of all when it's called and basically buying at the all-time high and only then seeing if you bought it when it was called, even to all-time high, you'd have only seen a 10% gain. Like that's fairly pointless. But if you'd have used our buy after dip mode, then I'm just going to delete this so we've got some more space. Then, okay, maybe you wouldn't have bought at 50%. What you need to do is create a whole list of like 50 of these and then take the average. So let's say at the moment you've only got these two, so you might have bought at 30%. So let's see what the 30% dip is from here. Oh my God, computer's being laggy. So if we'd have gone to a 30% dip, which is probably more realistic, obviously, it'd be great to catch it right at the bottom, but you're not going to. So let's say you'd have instead bought it here. That then enables you to get a 60% increase to all-time high rather than just a 10% increase. So this is a really, really important feature. And as we go through more of these signals, we'll start to get more of an understanding of what dip actually we want to be buying it. I know lots of people like to buy straight away when the call comes in. And for sure, sometimes you will miss a call if you're waiting for a dip. But 9 times out of 10, you're actually going to get a much, much better entry. Especially because like as a signal goes out, obviously all the bots buy. So sometimes it will boost volume a little bit. Um, and then as nothing happens, they'll sell or other people will sell. And then as they sell, people will start to get scared and they'll sell, as I'm sure you've all experienced. And you see it going down, you sell. And then often it returns. So what the key is here is just trying to get in the best possible entry. And then even if you just get the same all-time high, you're now making 60, 70% as opposed to 10%, which is a really big difference. Um, Why is there a logo on your software UI minted? Mine downloaded from the original channel is the leak. No, mate, there's no difference whatsoever. We're partnered with Minted, and I've just been setting up various channels for them earlier. So, like, if I log in via my Minted token, then so like yeah, it's like a minted key, and it just means if I create a task, I get a minted bot token, which means I automatically get access to their channels. So like shitcoin calls, shitcoin. So this is actually bot for their users specifically. So when they log in, they get access to the channels from that bot. So this is something we've been offering some of the top groups, and yeah, we're really proud to be working with Minted. They're a fantastic group, and yeah, I couldn't recommend them high enough. In fact, I saw some guy in there earlier who made 7 grand off an NFT, and I didn't even know you could still make money off NFTs. So yeah, I mean that speaks for itself. But there is absolutely no difference in terms of the bot. It works in exactly the same way, all the same features. So yeah, don't worry about that at all. Oh yeah, as someone's already said, that same bot just partnered up with Leap. Yeah, exactly. Um, couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for that. Yeah, so let's go back into the channel as we'll have a few more calls now, and we can see get some start building up some data. So let's go for this one, Sweenify. So we're just going to open it up in Photon. We can start by just grabbing the contract address. And we can also grab the current market cap. So it's 32K. So we can chuck that in equals today. That was called at 55 and 34, did I say? 32. Right. So let's, oh, that was just the call came through. So we should, have I got the wrong token in here again like yesterday? That should be fine. I'm just going to make a new task for this because I may have an old Discord token in there. I'm just going to set this up again quickly and then we'll go back to the analyzing the channels. I just want to make sure that we are able to do some live trades. That's obviously why you all are here. You want to see what it looks like when it's working. Let me just pull up my other server with my burner Discord. Lovely. So for any of you that haven't seen how the bot works, this is how it works. You just put your server ID, your channel ID. It's all really, really intuitive, which makes it nice and easy to set up. 05, select the wallet, Aaron. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. And let's add a drop node in here. Actually, for the sake of seeing how Minted runs, let's run it. Let's run it without a drop mode for now. And I just want to see, as we're collecting data, it's more useful to run without, and then we can get the data of how high the coins went. And that's just easier for you guys to see it working. And then we can do a version with drop mode as well. Let's pull up where we were. So we were looking at Sweenify, which is going to be up here. The call came in at 32K, if I remember correctly. Is that what I wrote down? Yeah, 32K at 55. So we can find the time. So it's probably going to be somewhere around this boost of volume here. 55, and it was called 32k. So, had you have got in instantly within one block, then sure, you may have made 40%. So, that's pretty amazing if you could have gone in there in and out instantly. But it's quite likely you'd have either been slipped on the way up or slipped on the way down and not got that perfect entry and perfect exit. Obviously, you may have done, but like it's fairly unlikely. And I want my research to be as accurate as possible, otherwise, it just doesn't help. But we will say there was a zero dip after call, and the initial increase was 38%. Yeah, 38%. So if I was doing this myself, I'd actually probably put like 20% there because there's no way you would have got the full 38. Um, you would have been slipped realistically to like here, and then you wouldn't have got there. You may have been slipped on the way down as well. So I would have said somewhere around there. So like, yeah, maybe 19%, and I put 20. So yeah, I'm happy with that for my own statistics. But what we can look at is instead of that, if we'd have been buying here. So again, what's quite interesting is we've had another 40% dip. So we can put that in there. So what you're starting to see is these dips are all coming down quite a lot. And had we have now bought in here and run it to the all-time high, then we're nearly making 100% profit. So here we go. If we come in here, all-time high, don't think it is. So what you'll notice is this was actually going to be a minus. So okay, we'd give it the 20% that it said that we put in this one, initial increase all-time high. So it never went higher after that. So it came down. Okay, we got a lower high, and then it obviously just died off. But what you're seeing again is instead of trying to fight for this initial boost, actually waiting for the coin to die. There's a reason Filtered have called this coin, and it's because obviously like the developer in the past has made coins that have gone to migration, or there's good holders in it, or any of the analysis they do for pinning it is why it's come in. So you've got to believe that when you're buying it down here, actually there's a reason why they've called it, and there's a reason now why you're going to buy it. So instead of fighting for this initial tiny boost, what you need to do is be waiting, setting our dip buy, waiting for it to come down here. So of the three we've done now, we've seen a 20% dip, a 52% dip, and a 40% dip. So let's do a few more and see where we get to. But if we start to see that the like 40 to 50% range is quite likely, then what we're going to do is we're going to set the dip to be maybe like 38%. And then as soon as that's triggered, we'll buy. And then suddenly you're getting much, much bigger gains than like otherwise you would have done here, which is, yeah, fairly minimal gains. Like, this is not exciting. This really is. Is this making sense to everyone so far? Um, I hope it is. Um, I'm just looking through the chat now. I can see El Noob's answering loads of questions, so I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. Chat's actually going off. There's loads of people talking. It's good to see. Yeah, lovely. Okay, I can't see any questions that specifically need answering right now. So let's just go on to the next bit. So let's take this next coin. So we've got it here. Again, just going to open it up in Photon. The 34k market cap. So 34,000. Time called was 59. Let's grab VCA so I can refer back to it later. So 59 and 34k. Let's find where that is on the chart. Then sun blazing in my ear, in my eyes. Sorry, 59. I said it's going to be this boost of volume here. That's what will have alerted that. So I mean, yeah, and 32k over here, 34k. must have been here then. So yeah, I mean, it's literally called the top. You know, which is another reason why you want to wait. I mean, this is showing it over and over again. We've had a 45% dip there. I mean, if this isn't like the most perfect demonstration of why you use this strategy that Leap have, Leap is also one of the only bots that have this. I can't understand why because it is unbelievable. As you're literally seeing it in live, like I've not looked at any of these before. I'm just going through them with you now. So dip after call, I think I said 45%. Yeah, 45%. Um, I mean, there was no initial increase. So again, you would have been gutted if you'd have bought in then. No need to rush, like no need to put like your high fees really high so you're buying straight away. Like that is just, in my opinion, like such a waste of money. Um, but what we're going to look at here is we've now got that gap from. So it had you have bought there, okay, you would have got to 30%. Just if by buying at the point. So all-time high increase, so you got a 30% increase. But bearing in mind, you went down 45% just to get that 30% increase. So had your stop loss have been at like 20%, you'd have been stopped out before you even got anything. But what's really interesting, so that's the same, the biggest dip from all-time high. But what's going to be really interesting is this gain now from here all the way up to here. So yeah, another you got 131% there. In fact, it's even bigger than that if you'd have got in at the bottom. You got 140% gain. So like again, what I'm starting to think, obviously, look, this is 4 coins. This is really not enough to give you that proper data that you need to before you start buying like 2 SOL per trade. But yeah, like this is it's just so clear that had you have had your dip at like 40%, you'd have caught all 3 of these, and you'd have ran up basically 100% on each of them. So, you know, more on these two maybe. Um, so and also by buying at 40% on this one, you'd have been like in perfectly at the bottom. On this one, you'd have had 5% drawdown, and on this one, you'd have had 10% drawdown. Like that's phenomenal. Suddenly, your stop loss is tiny and your potential loss is tiny compared to the overall gain. You're looking at like a 5% potential loss for 140% gain, or 10% potential loss for 135% gain. Like, okay, this one you'd have missed. So fine, you just wouldn't have bought this one. Like, who cares? It's not a loss. You just wouldn't have bought. The ones that would be the losses is like if we find one in a second that goes down to, let's say, just it just dies straight away, and we'd have bought at 40%. Obviously, that would be a loss. But let's see how the next one goes. I'm just looking at the chat quickly. Um, yeah, actually, it's just come out of beta, so everyone is just figuring it out. Lol. Um, Thanks, bro. I had asked, and you have delivered. It's quite helpful. I'm glad, mate. I'm glad. I I know it can be rather confusing, so I did want to make it like as clear as humanly possible. Um, um, Lovely. Oh no, let's have you in there. We don't want that there. That'll be annoying. So yeah, next one. Which one have we done? We've done this one. Okay, so this one is next. 27K market cap. Let's open it in Photon. Today's date. Obviously, we can just put a few of them in. 27,000. What time is it called? 16:02. Could you do drop this in the Discord? It's formatted already. Could you drop? Yeah, of course, mate. I can send this. I can send this whole spreadsheet. Um, it doesn't matter to me. And like, also, you can add more data to it. Like, if you find like you want to know the time, maybe so like the time from entry or like the time from the biggest dip. to the all-time high. Like that could be quite useful if you could start to see, okay, on average it's about 3 minutes, or it could be like 5 minutes. I mean, that data is all useful. And like obviously, the more data you collect, the more analysis and the more analysis you can do. But for the sake of showing this, this covers from what I believe is a good enough start. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. This one looks like it could actually be a loss just off my initial quick look there, but let's actually look at this properly. Why is that? SHM, so yeah, what time is it? 16:02 and 7 o'clock. Sorry, 6:02 and 16:02 and 27K. It's going to be this huge bit of volume here. It's literally just going to pull the top again, I reckon. Yeah, and it says what, 27K? How's it done that? Oh, it's called it after the volume. Okay, so this one I believe we're just going to see a loss on, but it'll be interesting. So this is where the entry came in. Um, yeah, I mean, as you can see, like just initially just crashed basically. Um, let's say the biggest drop was there, so we'll say it's a 50%er. So again, they pretty consistently have a 40 to 50% dip. So 50%. I think we're going to say we would have lost on this one, but it'll be interesting to see. 50%. And then initial increase was zero. All-time high increase. Now let's have a look at that. Oh, it's this one, isn't it? So let's say this is the all-time high because, yeah, obviously there was nothing else since. Um, okay, so you've still got a 40% gain. Um, now, I know that's not great. Um, zero, because it's a lower, but then 40%. The reason this is zero is because it's obviously not like this all-time high is not higher than this, so it's still down, which is why I put zero here. But there is a difference from the bottom to here, which is why I label that gain from the biggest dip. So okay, 40%, like what you would have probably done by 40%. So in my drop trader strategy, by the time I've got to 40%, it's moved my stop loss to break even. So although this one wouldn't have made me any money, like I wouldn't have cashed out at 40%, I would have ended up, the trade would have gone down, and as it came down, it would have stopped me out here, and I would have ended up breaking even. So again, it's not that bad. Um, it wouldn't have been profitable, but it certainly wouldn't have been a loss. So again, let's just take another one. This one here. So 39K at 1611. 39K, 1611, 1611, 39,000. Dip after call. I'm just going to close these off just so it's a bit clearer on my screen. Oh, fuck it. Just going to have to reopen this one now. Okay, so I said 39K at 1611, I believe. 39K at 1611. Yeah. So let's find 13. Okay, so this one's migrated. So this one's going to be nice. Um, Lovely. So it's going to have used this volume here. So this might be one. This might be a good example of one that we would have missed out on, but maybe not. Let's have a look. 16, 17, 11, and 39K. Okay, so it's entered here. Now we can say that we've had an initial increase of 69%. So this is obviously like a better call, but so we can say 0%, which is nice. Um, so we get an initial 69% increase. However, this is the bit that gets interesting. It did go down after that. What we're interested in is from the entry. Now, entry, it went down 74%. So had you have kept your thing at 50%, let's see what would have happened. So as we can see here, biggest dip for all-time high, 74%. So again, you're not going to have got in there because what we're thinking by now is you're probably going to set the biggest dip at 40%. So let's see what would have happened. If you'd have gone from the biggest dip, which again is not realistic, so like, but just for the sake of showing you, the biggest dip to all-time high would have been a 10x. So that's the difference between if you'd have done that or entered when the call was, which is nearly a 2x. So like, that's it is a 2x. So that's still a nice call. Like no doubt about it. Um, it's actually yeah, 3x actually. So yeah, that is nice. Obviously, um, return high percentage increase. So we've got 200%. So like that is a nice call. No doubt about it. If you'd have entered at the right time, fine, perfect. But instead of that, had you have done your 40% instead of the 70%, now let's see where you'd have been at. So again, we're not going to say you'd have got this 10x because like realistically you wouldn't have bought right down there. But where you might have bought is at the 40% mark, which is here. Now let's say you'd have bought here and you'd have run it up to there. You're still getting a 5x. So you're getting a 400% increase just by waiting. So like, although you might think, oh God, I missed out on this trade because it started to moon without me. No, you didn't. It came down, you got a better entry, and you were patient, and then you got that. And not only were you only this by entering there, you were only down. I mean, you were still down 50%, but God, that's a lot better than if you'd have been. You just a lot better than if you'd have entered here, and you'd have been down, yeah, 75% before it went up. And to be honest, most of your stop losses are going to be less than 75%. Like, let's be honest. So you would have actually got none of this gain. So that's why I don't run a stop loss, but do run the delayed entry. It means you can get much better entries. So I mean, look, we've been on the call for nearly an hour now. I mean, I can sort of keep going through these if you want, but I think it's pretty clear what I'm doing. Um, yeah, I think it's fairly obvious how this is working now. And I know it's pretty boring. Like there is no doubt about that. Like going through all the old charts and getting this data is like not exciting. But this is the difference between you being profitable or not. Like if imagine you're entering because you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna enter all these calls and you're entering here, like your potential gain it sucks. But like if you just do even just like the 20 minutes of research that I've done, and obviously this has taken me longer because I've been explaining it to you. If I'm just doing this myself, I can do each coin in like, I don't know, 3 minutes, maybe less, probably less to be fair. All you're doing is getting a tiny bit of data and inputting it into a chart or a spreadsheet. And like suddenly we've not even had a loss. Like, okay, this would have been break even, this wouldn't have entered, but you'd have had three 2x's and a 5x. If that doesn't say why you need to put a tiny bit of effort in, then like I don't know what does. Um, I know that like you guys want me to just tell you like the most basic strategy or work on every single chart, but work on every call, but it just isn't like that. You need to be doing this for each channel you want to follow. Um, yeah, otherwise you're just wasting your time and you're basically throwing your money on red. So yeah, is there any more questions in chat? I'm just going to throw a Discord link in for Leap so you guys can get joining. I know it's already been one sent in at the top, but I'm just going to send another one in. So any of you guys that are wanting to join and haven't seen the invite further up, you can join from this one. Say hi when you get in here. Um, Other than that, is there anything else that you guys want to? Oh, nice. I can see people. How do I access the alpha you mentioned? Yeah, there's a lot. So we have our own alpha, but for that you have to be active and posting success. And actually, I'm going to give Il Noobs access. I've not seen someone that active in a long time. He's been answering all the questions on the chat. I can see like 30 responses to him on Twitch. He's being helpful in here. So yeah, welcome to our own little sweaty tools channel. This is what I follow. So yeah, that's basically what you need to do is just be kind, be active, post success, and you will be rewarded. In terms of the other alphas, there's Pure, which you can get a 3-day trial for if you say you're from Leap. Filtered, you'll get a 1-day trial if you say you're from Leap. Moonmint is free. Reaper is free. So yeah, if you join our Discord now with the link I've just sent, then I'll link you to the other Discords. But yeah, make sure you join up there. Other than that, is there anything else you'd like to know before I go? And if this is something you like, then I'm more than happy to make this a more regular occurrence. Obviously, we did it yesterday. I did it today. Uh, I can try and do it like 3 or 4 times a week if that's wanted. Um, I'll just give you a few more minutes to ask some questions, and then yeah, if nothing comes through, then we'll call it a day and let you go and enjoy your evening. Um, how would you set up take profits? Yeah, I'll show you that. So this I do use Drop Trader. So I use that's the strategy. I use unlimited drop mode. Now, what this enables you to do is make the most out of the gains. So if we go back to one of our charts, actually, what it does basically is it keeps the stop loss moving up and up and up as the chart comes down. So like it will give you come back to it. So you set a profit target. Let's say your first level is going to be 50%. And what that means is when you get to 50% profit, it will move your floor or your stop loss to, let's say, 5%. And then you'll sell 100% at that figure. Now, if you don't hit that 5%, let's say it hits 50 and then goes up and hits, let's say, 100%, you now move your stop loss to 50%. So no matter what happens now, you're going to make at least 50% profit. Now, if this comes up and this hits, let's say 150, 100, and then we're going to say, I don't know, let's say we move that up to 100. But again, this also wants to be based off your strategy. So what were we looking at? We were looking at 135, 95. So really, most of the coins, you're going to get about a 2x. Like this one, you would have been out. This one is 2x. Okay, not quite over 2x. Obviously, way over 2x. So based off this, again, I would want like 50 coins before I'm going to try and make a strategy. But for the sake of today and showing you how it works, let's just do it like this. I'm going to have my first one at 40%. The reason being is that was the lowest. So now all of them would have hit this, and I wouldn't have lost anything. The worst that would have happened, I'd have gained 5%. As they all hit at least 95% after that, I'm going to set that as the next one and 50%. So I wouldn't have actually got that 95% profit. I would have ended up coming out at 50% profit because that was my stop loss for that mode, for that level, sorry. And then let's see. So we had a 135 and a 140. So maybe what we do here is I would have actually now, if I was looking to do it, I'd go 130 and I'd probably keep that at 100. So those two, I would have got 100. And it's quite possible that after that, I would have then opened it up. But this is why I need more data. Like it's so hard for me to show this accurately without having like like 50 inputs here. Having just like six like we have now is useful, and for like demonstration purposes, it's helpful. But for finding a really consistent strategy, you just do need more data. But yeah, that's how I do it.